Did you know that Yahweh, the God of Israel, wasn't always the only God worshipped by his people? What if I told you that before becoming the singular, almighty deity we know today, Yahweh had to fight a divine war against other gods? Yes, this isn't a simple myth. It's buried deep within the pages of the Bible itself. From Psalm 82 to the mysterious plagues of Egypt, there's evidence suggesting a time when Yahweh wasn't alone in his power. In fact, he fought to claim his place as the one true God, confronting deities like Baal, Asherah, and even the powerful Egyptian gods. These are the truths that have been hidden for centuries, and today we will uncover them. Why was this divine war so significant? Why have these hidden truths been ignored or silenced for so long? Could it be that the transition from polytheism to monotheism wasn't as straightforward as we've been taught? Did Yahweh truly massacre other gods? Or is there something deeper, more symbolic behind this spiritual battle? In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of ancient history, diving into the mysterious rise of Yahweh, exploring forgotten battles, and revealing the shocking transformation from Henotheism, the worship of one God among many, to the absolute monotheism we recognize today. You'll discover how the plagues of Egypt weren't just punishments. They were divine strikes against the gods of Egypt, each one a direct challenge to their power. But that's not all. As we explore, you'll learn about the ancient Canaanite pantheon, where Yahweh was once just another warrior god among others, and how he rose to defeat all rivals. How did he earn his title as the only true God? What does this struggle say about faith, power, and worship? Stay with me, and by the end of this journey, you'll understand why this forgotten history of Yahweh's divine war changes everything we thought we knew about the Bible. This is the key to unlocking the true power and supremacy of Yahweh, and how his victory still echoes in our faith today. From the beginning of time, Yahweh's journey was not as simple as being the one true God. His rise to supremacy involved battles not only on earth, but in the spiritual realms as well. You see, before becoming the singular deity worshipped by Israel, Yahweh was among a pantheon of gods, sharing his divine space with other powerful beings. But what truly set him apart was his willingness to fight, to show his power in the face of other deities. This wasn't a mere clash of myths or legends. This was the war that would shape the very foundation of monotheism. In the Old Testament, there are echoes of these battles, hidden beneath layers of history. The Canaanite pantheon is a perfect example. Yahweh was originally one among many. In the ancient texts, we see Yahweh's name among gods like Baal and Asherah, each holding authority over different realms of life. Baal, the storm god, had power over the weather and fertility, while Asherah was revered as the mother goddess, the bringer of life and prosperity. Yahweh was no different from these gods at first, but he was destined for greatness. He was a divine warrior, and like any warrior, he had to prove his supremacy in the heavens and on earth. The battle began when Yahweh, not content with simply existing alongside these gods, set out to dominate them. Psalm 82 offers a glimpse into this cosmic battle, where Yahweh stands as the judge of all other gods. In this divine council, Yahweh decrees their downfall. "How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked?" he asks, declaring the end of their reign. This passage is not just poetic imagery, it's a reflection of Yahweh's fight for supremacy in the spiritual world. What is more profound, however, is the subtle but powerful message. Even if these gods were powerful, they were ultimately nothing compared to Yahweh. His reign was inevitable, and he would prove it in every battle. Let's take a moment to truly understand what this means. In a world dominated by polytheism, where every people had their own gods governing nature, war, fertility, and even love, Yahweh began to set himself apart. He didn't just claim a seat at the table of gods. He wanted to be the only one worshipped. This wasn't an arrogant claim. It was a necessary battle. Yahweh's people, the Israelites, had been surrounded by nations who worshipped these very gods. Every day they saw the temples of Baal and Asherah, heard the praises sung to the Egyptian gods, and lived under the shadow of gods who seemed to have control over everything. But Yahweh, with all his power and majesty, needed them to know that there was no power greater than his own. The 10 plagues of Egypt were perhaps the most public display of this spiritual war. Each plague was a direct challenge to the Egyptian gods. Think about it for a moment. When the Nile turned to blood, it wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a challenge to the god of the Nile, Hapi, who was believed to control the flooding and fertility of the river. When darkness covered the land for 3 days, it was a direct strike against Ra, the sun god, who was seen as the giver of life and order. With each plague, Yahweh showed that the gods of Egypt, no matter how mighty they seemed, were powerless before him. In these moments, the truth was clear. No idol could stand against the God of Israel. His power was not just supreme, it was all-encompassing. He ruled over the forces of nature, life, and death itself. This divine warfare did not stop with the plagues. The battle raged on in the very heart of Israel, where the people of God were tempted to worship these other gods. How many times did the prophets warn them? How many times did they fall into the trap of idolatry, building altars to Baal, Asherah, and other deities? The very fact that Israel struggled with these temptations shows how deeply embedded polytheism was in the cultures around them. But Yahweh, in his wisdom, knew that this was not just about his power, it was about their faithfulness. The people of Israel had to choose. Would they follow the gods of the nations, or would they recognize Yahweh as the one true God? One of the most significant events in this ongoing battle was the confrontation on Mount Carmel. In this dramatic scene, the prophet Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal to prove which God was truly the one who could send fire from heaven. The prophets of Baal danced, cut themselves, and cried out to their God, but nothing happened. Then Elijah, with quiet confidence, called upon Yahweh, and in an instant, fire fell from the sky, consuming not only the offering, but the very stones of the altar. This was not just a miracle. It was the culmination of a divine struggle. In this moment, Yahweh demonstrated that he alone had the power to command the heavens, that no other god could rival his authority. The people who had witnessed this event fell on their faces, crying out, "The Lord, he is God! The Lord, he is God!" This event was a turning point for Israel, but it was also a reminder to us all. The story of Yahweh's rise to supremacy is not just an ancient myth. It is a profound message for us today. It's a reminder that we too must choose whom we will worship. It's easy to be swayed by the gods of this world. Materialism, fame, power, comfort. These are the idols that distract us, promising us fulfillment and control. But like the people of Israel, we are called to turn away from these false gods and recognize the one true God. The lesson here is clear. Yahweh's supremacy is not just a historical fact. It is a spiritual reality that we must live out each day. But the journey to monotheism did not end with Mount Carmel. In fact, it took centuries for Israel to fully embrace Yahweh as the only true God. The rise of Yahweh from being one God among many to the singular deity of Israel is a gradual process, and we see it unfold in the pages of the Bible. Over time, other gods were dethroned, and Yahweh's power was increasingly recognized as absolute. The very fact that the people of Israel struggled with idol worship for so long shows just how difficult this transformation was. It was not easy for them to let go of the gods of their neighbors, the gods they had seen performing miracles, the gods they had grown up with. But Yahweh, in his infinite patience and wisdom, slowly but surely helped them see the truth. One key element in this process was the influence of the prophets. Prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Hosea didn't just speak of Yahweh's greatness. They called the people to repent, to turn away from idols, and to recognize Yahweh as the one true God. Their messages were often harsh, full of rebuke and correction, but they were necessary for Israel's spiritual transformation. They reminded the people that their relationship with Yahweh was not just a matter of rituals or sacrifices. It was about exclusivity, about choosing Him above all else. The story of Israel's spiritual battle is not just a story of the past. It is a living, breathing testament to the ongoing struggle between light and darkness, between the truth and the lies of the enemy. And the lesson we must learn is this: we are still in this battle today. Every day we are faced with the temptation to worship false gods, whether they are the gods of wealth, power, or pleasure. But just as Yahweh triumphed over the gods of Egypt, just as He proved His supremacy on Mount Carmel, He is still sovereign today. His victory is not just an ancient story. It is a present reality that calls us to live faithfully to Him. The question remains, are we willing to recognize Yahweh as the one true God, the only one worthy of our worship? The battle is not over. It continues every time we choose what to place our faith in, every time we decide who or what we will worship. The message is clear. Yahweh is supreme, and He will always reign supreme. It is time for us to turn away from the false gods that seek to distract us and embrace the truth that only Yahweh is God. As Yahweh's supremacy grew, so did the battles that raged not only in the heavens, but in the hearts of His people. The struggle was never just about defeating other gods in distant lands. It was about reclaiming the loyalty of those He had chosen to follow Him. The people of Israel, surrounded by the powerful pantheon of gods in Canaan, Egypt, and beyond, were continuously tempted to turn away from Yahweh, to bow before gods of wood and stone, gods who promised protection, fertility, and prosperity. These gods, like Baal and Asherah, represented the deepest desires and fears of the people. But Yahweh's call was different. It was a call to faithfulness, to recognizing the one true God above all others. In these moments of spiritual conflict, Yahweh did not simply demand worship. He sought to heal His people from the brokenness of idolatry. His battles weren't just about physical dominance, they were about spiritual healing. The call to worship Yahweh alone wasn't a call for control. It was a call for the people's hearts to be healed from the false hopes they had placed in idols. Baal, Asherah, and the many gods of the surrounding nations promised quick rewards, but never delivered lasting peace. They were fleeting. They were hollow. Yahweh, on the other hand, promised eternal peace and restoration. The battle wasn't only for power, it was for the very soul of Israel. Take, for example, the period when the people of Israel found themselves in the wilderness, wandering after the exodus from Egypt. They had witnessed the mighty power of Yahweh during the 10 plagues, each plague a divine strike against Egypt's gods, each one a testimony of Yahweh's power over nature, life, and death. Yet even after all that they had seen, the Israelites still struggled to trust Him. In their moment of fear, when Moses went up the mountain to meet with God, they turned to the golden calf, an idol they could see, touch, and worship. They returned to their old ways, believing that an image could provide what Yahweh had already promised: protection, guidance, and hope. But Yahweh in His mercy did not abandon them. He called them back. Even in their rebellion, He showed them His power and His faithfulness. This is the essence of His divine war. It was not about punishing those who had turned away, but about healing them, bringing them back into the fold of His love. Yahweh's heart was not to destroy, but to restore, to show His people that only in Him could they find true peace. It was through this relentless love that Yahweh continued to fight for His people. turning their hearts away from the idols that had taken their place and drawing them back into the light of his truth. This battle for the hearts of Israel continued in the lives of the prophets. Figures like Elijah, Isaiah, and Jeremiah rose up as voices of truth in a land filled with idol worship. They were not just foretelling the future, they were calling the people to repentance, urging them to abandon the false gods they had trusted for so long. Elijah's confrontation with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel is one of the most powerful moments of divine warfare in the Bible. There, in the heat of a spiritual battle, Yahweh revealed himself not only as the God who answers prayers, but as the God who is worthy of all worship. When fire came down from heaven to consume Elijah's offering, it was a clear declaration of Yahweh's supremacy. He was not just the God of Israel, he was the God of all creation, the one who ruled over the heavens and the earth. But this battle for Israel's faithfulness was not just about the prophets confronting idols. It was about the people themselves. Every time the Israelites fell into idol worship, it was a personal betrayal of Yahweh's love for them. They were turning away from the God who had delivered them, who had fought for them, who had promised them peace. In this, we see the deep emotional and spiritual dimension of Yahweh's war. It was not just about defeating other gods, it was about healing his people from the spiritual blindness that led them to worship idols. It was about calling them back to the relationship he had always intended for them, a relationship of trust, faith, and love. This struggle didn't stop with the Old Testament. It continues to resonate in our lives today. We live in a world filled with false idols. While we may not worship physical statues of Baal or Asherah, we are constantly surrounded by things that compete for our worship: materialism, fame, power, success, and pleasure. These idols promise to fill us, to give us purpose and meaning. But like the false gods of the ancient world, they ultimately leave us empty. They never satisfy the deepest longings of our hearts. Yahweh's call to worship him alone is just as relevant today as it was in ancient Israel. He still calls us out of the darkness of idolatry, calling us to put our trust in him alone. The battle is not over. It is still being fought every day in our hearts. Will we choose to worship the fleeting idols of this world? Or will we choose the eternal God who offers us peace that passes all understanding? The story of Yahweh's rise to supremacy, from the divine wars of the Old Testament to the call for exclusive worship, is not just a story of history. It is a story of spiritual transformation. It's a call to examine our own lives and ask, what are the idols we've allowed to take his place? What are the false gods we've put our faith in? And most importantly, are we willing to turn away from these idols and embrace the one true God, the God who has always fought for our hearts? This is where the battle continues, not on a battlefield of physical conflict, but in the quiet places of our hearts. Every day, we are faced with choices. Do we place our trust in the things of this world, or do we trust in Yahweh, the God who has proven his love for us, who has proven his power over all false gods, and who promises us peace and restoration? The victory is already won, but the choice to live in that victory is ours. As we reflect on the spiritual battles of the past, let us not forget the power of Yahweh to heal and restore. Just as he fought for Israel's hearts, he fights for ours, and he will continue to fight until he has our undivided devotion, until we recognize him as the one true God who is worthy of all our worship. The story of Yahweh's supremacy is not just a call to faith, it is a call to healing. It is an invitation to lay down our idols and turn to the God who has always been faithful. As we journey through this divine war, we must remember that the victory is not just in the defeat of other gods, it is in the healing of our hearts. Yahweh's love is relentless, and his victory is complete. The only question now is, will we choose to be part of that victory? Will we choose to worship the God who has fought for us, who calls us to himself, and who promises to fill us with his peace and power? In the end, the divine war is not just about power, it's about love. And Yahweh's love is the greatest force in the universe. Let that love guide us, heal us, and lead us to worship Him alone. As Yahweh's journey to supremacy continued, another layer of this divine war began to unfold, one that would involve not just the people of Israel, but the very nature of worship itself. This battle wasn't just fought in the temples, on mountains, or in the wilderness. It was fought in the hearts of every individual. For Yahweh, the ultimate victory was not only about defeating the false gods of other nations, it was about transforming the hearts of His people, calling them to a deeper, more intimate relationship with Him. One of the most profound aspects of this transformation was the gradual shift from mere ritualistic worship to a deeper, heartfelt devotion to Yahweh. Israel was accustomed to the gods of their neighbors, gods who demanded sacrifice, ritual, and outward acts of devotion. But Yahweh's call was different. His was a call to the heart, to a relationship that went beyond outward observances and rituals. This shift wasn't always easy for Israel, as their hearts were often drawn to the idols they could see and touch. In the battle between Yahweh and the other gods, the stakes were not only the survival of a nation, but the very soul of that nation. When the people of Israel were instructed to destroy the altars of Baal and Asherah, it wasn't just about eliminating foreign gods. It was about purging their hearts of the false comforts and securities they had come to rely on. Yahweh wanted their hearts, their undivided devotion. This was not a simple act of idol destruction. It was a spiritual purification. Every altar torn down, every idol broken, was a call to the people to let go of the false promises that these idols represented. The promise of control, of prosperity without struggle, of life without cost. Yahweh was asking them to trust in Him alone, to believe that He was enough. This was not just a call to faith, it was a call to freedom. The idols of the surrounding nations had enslaved the hearts of the people, offering a hollow version of peace and fulfillment. Yahweh's call was to true freedom, a freedom that came through surrender. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of power and victory in the context of spiritual warfare, but the greatest victory in Yahweh's war is not simply in the defeat of other gods, it's in the restoration of the human heart. The battle for Israel's loyalty was not just a battle between two gods, it was a battle for their trust, for their hearts. And in this battle, Yahweh was not just the conqueror, He was also the healer. He understood that to truly bring His people into His presence, He had to first heal the wounds that idolatry had inflicted on their hearts. He had to replace the false promises of comfort and control with the true peace that comes only from trusting in Him. This is where the power of Yahweh's war becomes personal. It is no longer just about Israel's struggle against foreign gods. It's about our own struggles. We live in a world filled with idols, things that promise fulfillment, security, and purpose. But Yahweh calls us to something deeper. He calls us to a relationship with Him that goes beyond surface-level devotion, beyond rituals and acts of worship that are merely for show. He calls us to a life where our hearts are fully His, where our worship is not just outward actions, but a surrender of everything we are to the God who is worthy of it all. Just as Yahweh fought for the hearts of His people in the Old Testament, He continues to fight for ours today. The divine war is not over. It is ongoing in our lives, in the choices we make, in the things we allow to take up space in our hearts. Every time we choose to put our trust in something or someone other than Yahweh, we are engaging in a battle for our hearts. And just as Yahweh called Israel to tear down their idols, He calls us to do the same. The battle for our hearts is one of surrender, of recognizing that only in Yahweh do we find true peace, true security, and true fulfillment. This is the victory Yahweh is fighting for, not just the destruction of idols, but the restoration of the human heart. It is the healing of our deepest wounds, the filling of our greatest longings. Yahweh's divine war is not only for his supremacy over the false gods, it is for our freedom, our restoration, and our wholehearted devotion. In the end, the victory Yahweh won was not just for Israel, it was for all who would choose to follow him, to put their trust in the one true God, to turn away from the idols of this world and place their hearts fully in his hands. The victory is already won, but the battle for our hearts continues every day. Will we choose to surrender to him, to allow him to heal our hearts and lead us into the freedom he offers? This is the true victory of Yahweh's divine war, the restoration of the heart to the one true God. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want to pause and reflect on the profound truths we've uncovered. This journey through Yahweh's rise to supremacy, the divine war he fought, and the ultimate triumph over the false gods of ancient times is not just an ancient story. It's a living, breathing reality that continues to echo in our lives today. The battles fought long ago are not mere historical events. They are lessons that resonate with us in our daily struggles against the idols we face in our own hearts. Yahweh's story is one of relentless love, of a God who fought not only to prove his power, but to restore and heal his people. Just as he showed Israel that no other God could stand against him, he calls us to recognize that nothing in this world can satisfy the deepest longings of our hearts like he can. The idols of today may not be made of wood or stone, but they are just as powerful, drawing us away from the truth and peace that only Yahweh can provide. Whether it's the pursuit of wealth, success, recognition, or control, these false gods promise fulfillment but never deliver. Yahweh, however, promises something far more precious: peace that surpasses understanding, a love that heals, and a truth that sets us free. As you reflect on this powerful story of Yahweh's supremacy, consider what gods you might be battling with in your own life. What are the things you've allowed to take up space in your heart? Are there idols you've been worshipping without even realizing it? The divine war that Yahweh fought for the hearts of Israel is not just a battle of the past. It's a battle for your heart, for my heart, for the hearts of all who choose to follow him. And just as Yahweh was victorious then, he promises to bring victory into our lives today. But that victory requires us to make a choice, to choose Yahweh above all else, to trust him with our hearts, and to surrender fully to his love. You might be wondering, how can I be part of this victory? How can I align my heart with Yahweh's will and embrace his healing and restoration? The answer lies in acknowledging the idols in our lives and turning our focus back to him. It's a continual journey, a battle that we may have to fight every day. But Yahweh is with us, just as he was with his people in ancient times, offering his strength, his love, and his grace. When we choose to trust in him alone, we open the door for his victory to be manifested in our lives. If this video has touched your heart, if the story of Yahweh's battle for supremacy has awakened something in you, I invite you to join me in this ongoing journey. If you've found light through the words shared here, or if this message has given you strength during a difficult time, I humbly ask for your support. Every moment you spend here, every word you share, and every bit of energy you contribute to this journey helps me continue creating these videos that spread the light and love of Yahweh. If this content resonates with you, if it has helped you find peace or healing, please consider supporting me with your energy, your thoughts, and your engagement. It is in this shared space that we grow together, and your support, no matter how small, is a precious gift to me. By liking, commenting, or subscribing, you are not just supporting a channel, you are helping to spread the powerful message of Yahweh's supremacy, of his divine victory, and of the love that heals the brokenhearted. Your engagement helps others find these words, helps more souls connect with the truth of who Yahweh is and the freedom he offers. I believe that together we can continue to share the message of Yahweh's love and power in a world that so desperately needs it. Your comments, your reflections, your participation are not only appreciated, they are vital. Each word, Each interaction is a step toward greater healing, greater understanding, and greater peace. If this video has impacted you in any way, let it be a reminder that the battle for your heart has already been won. You are not alone in this journey. Yahweh is with you, and his victory is your victory. As we continue to dive deeper into the divine mysteries, may we always remember that the battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the powers that seek to steal our hearts. Yahweh has proven his power, he has shown his love, and he invites us to live in the freedom of his victory. Let this message be a beacon of hope, a reminder that no matter the idols that vie for our attention, Yahweh remains the one true God, worthy of all our trust, all our devotion, and all our hearts. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. May Yahweh's peace fill your heart, his love surround you, and his truth guide you. If this video has brought even a small light into your life, I ask for your support in helping to share that light with others. Together we can continue to bring Yahweh's message of hope, love, and supremacy to the world. Thank you for being part of this community, and may you always find strength in knowing that Yahweh is fighting for you.